Her mother looked me in the eye and said, "She's carrying twins, but not yours. Let's not make this messier. We'll wire $5 million to your account by morning. Just sign the papers and disappear." I didn't argue. I smiled. "Congratulations," I said. Then I signed the divorce papers, shook her father's hand, and walked out of that mansion like a man who just sold an old painting he never wanted to frame again. Hi, my name is Miles Weston, and I don't shout when I lose. I walk. A week later, I was on a flight to Lisbon. No press, no announcement, just space, distance. I let them run the story they wanted, that I'd been paid off, discarded, forgotten. Let her plan the wedding, let him gloat, let her family think they bought my silence. But what none of them asked was why I'd signed so quickly. No one noticed the nurse I tipped at the hospital, or the DNA test I quietly submitted 2 hours after she admitted the affair. Now they were finalizing vows, photographing cake options, and the envelope I timed perfectly had just arrived at the rehearsal. She opened it and screamed. The scream echoed across the rehearsal hall like a dropped microphone. People froze mid-laugh. The violinist stopped tuning. Her sister dropped her champagne. She stood there in her ivory dress fitting, gripping the envelope like it had burned her. The paper shook in her hand. "Is this a joke?" she barked at her fiancé. He looked confused, stammered something, but her mother had already stormed over, heels clicking, demanding answers. But I wasn't there to give them. I was already sipping espresso at a rooftop cafe in Porto, overlooking the Douro River, when my phone buzzed. A known number. I answered, but didn't speak. All I heard was her voice, frantic. "Miles, what the hell is this?" "The truth?" I said calmly. "You had no right." "I had every right. I was your husband. You made me a lie. I just corrected the record." "You think you're clever," she hissed. "No," I replied. "I think you're predictable." Her family had bought silence, not closure, but I never needed their money. I just needed the perfect moment. And now that the cracks had started, they'd find out I didn't just leave quietly. I left strategically. They tried to recover the rehearsal. They even restarted the music, but the room had changed. Whispers spread faster than champagne. Her bridesmaids huddled, clutching their phones. His best man kept checking the exit. And the groom, the so-called father of her twins, was pale, shaking, scrolling frantically through his messages like someone searching for a lifeboat mid-sinking. Because the DNA report didn't say the twins were mine. It said they were no one's in the room. Not mine, not his. She had lied twice. And when a woman builds betrayal on betrayal, even those who love her start doing math in their heads. I didn't release the test to the press. I didn't need to. Her mother did it for me accidentally when she forwarded the wrong email to her attorney. It leaked. The screenshots hit tabloids within 24 hours. By morning, headlines read, "Heiress fairy tale wedding crumbles after secret DNA bombshell." And me? I was still in Portugal, one hand on my coffee, one foot tapping to the street violinist across the square. I never asked for revenge, but if they were going to script me out of the story, I decided to rewrite the ending myself. By the time the wedding was officially postponed, the tabloids had a field day. They speculated everything: fertility scandal, secret surrogacy, even celebrity impersonation. But the truth was far more boring and more damning. She didn't know who the father was because she'd been sleeping with 3 different men during our marriage, none of them me, and none of them each other. One of them was a nightclub investor, one was her family's financial advisor, the third worked valet at her favorite spa. She didn't just betray me, she desecrated legacy. And the man who was supposed to marry her, he vanished the next morning. No public statement, no press conference, just a deleted Instagram and a red-eye flight out of the country. Her family was left to mop up the PR bloodbath. That's when my phone rang again. This time it was her father. "Miles," he said, his voice gravel now, "we made a mistake." "You made several," I replied. "I want to fix this. I chuckled. You think this is still a negotiation? Paused. What do you want? I finished my drink and said, I want the company your daughter thought she'd inherit, and I want it clean. He didn't argue, didn't counter, didn't even blink. Her father just asked, and if we give it to you? I walk away, I said quietly. No press, no interviews, no more tests. He exhaled like a man measuring the cost of public shame. The company was old money, land development, logistics, real estate, now rebranded for the digital age, but still ruled by whispers and handshakes. His daughter was supposed to inherit it. I was just the distraction who married in. And now I was the only one not tied to the scandal. The DNA leak had tainted everything. Investors were nervous, stakeholders furious. His daughter practically untouchable from a credibility standpoint. But me? I was clean. So I waited, and finally he nodded. I'll have the papers drafted. You'll own 100%. Her name comes off everything. I stood. You're doing the right thing. He didn't answer. 2 days later, I signed the ownership transfer inside a silent boardroom. No cameras, no celebration, just ink, initials, and silence. That night, my ex-wife called. You win, she whispered. But I wasn't smiling, because this was never about winning. It was about making sure they never erased me again. The press tried to keep the fire going. Tabloid headlines shifted from her affair to wild theories about why I left the country, why I returned, and how I suddenly acquired control of a multi-generational empire. I didn't respond. I didn't post. I didn't explain. Because silence is louder when people know it's intentional. Inside the company, I made immediate changes, rebuilt the leadership team, cleared out every executive she had vouched for, moved operations online, sold off outdated assets her father had clung to out of ego, not strategy, and within 60 days, we posted our strongest Q1 in 5 years. But that wasn't the part that rattled them. What shook them was what I did next. I renamed the company. No longer tied to her family's name, no longer their legacy, it became mine. W and Sons. Not because I had children, but because one day I would, and they'd inherit something forged from survival, not scandal. She sent one more message, one line. You don't get to rewrite history. I read it once, then I deleted it. Because history is written by the ones who were never supposed to survive the first chapter. Her family tried one last play, an emergency injunction claiming I manipulated her during our marriage, that the DNA test was falsified, that I coerced her father during an emotional instability. It was weak, but not surprising. I'd spent enough years behind their closed doors to know exactly what desperation looked like, and this was it. They weren't trying to win, they were trying to delay. But I had prepared for that too. My lawyers filed a response within 24 hours, a counterclaim, airtight, dated, witnessed, and backed by private records I never knew I kept. Conversations, payments, her own signatures authorizing the terms they were now calling coercion. The judge read both sides, looked over her glasses, and asked her attorney a single question. Are you prepared to be countersued for defamation under oath? The case was dismissed that afternoon. And just like that, the final door they tried to close slammed on their own fingers. I didn't celebrate, didn't gloat, just walked out of the courthouse, loosened my tie, and felt the sun for what felt like years. They wanted me erased, but now they'd spend the rest of their lives walking past my name. A year later, the company stood taller than it ever had under their name. W and Sons became a symbol not of revenge, but resilience. We launched housing initiatives in underserved regions, partnered with clean infrastructure startups, and quietly funded scholarships under names no one recognized, but I did. Names like the nurse who gave me access to that first DNA swab, the friend who helped me vanish when I needed distance, the attorney who believed me when no one else would. I didn't chase recognition, I chased correction, and I got it. One crisp fall morning, I walked into the same cafe where she once sat with her fiancé. The place had changed hands. No trace of them remained. But I still remembered. As I paid for my coffee, the barista looked up. "You're him, right? From the articles?" I gave a small smile. "Depends what they said." He grinned. "That you didn't lose everything. You just took the long way to something better." I nodded once, because it was true. I never needed to ruin her. She did that all on her own. All I did was stand still enough for the truth to catch up.